At 28 years old, my name is Elena, and for as long as I can remember, I have been the structural integrity of a collapsing building. I am the daughter who never asks for a loan, the one who files her taxes early, the one whose phone rings only when someone else's world is burning to the ground. I wore my reliability like a heavy coat, mistaking the weight of it for warmth. But that Tuesday night, sitting at the mahogany dining table that had hosted 1,000 silent grudges, the fabric of that life finally tore. The air in the dining room was thick, smelling of roasted garlic and unspoken resentments. My mother, Margaret, placed her fork down with a deliberate metallic clink that echoed like a gavel. She wiped the corner of her mouth with a linen napkin, her eyes scanning the room not with affection, but with calculation. When she spoke, her voice was devoid of inflection, delivering a verdict rather than a conversation starter. "Your sister will be moving into your apartment next month," Margaret announced. She didn't look at me. She picked up her wine glass, swirling the crimson liquid. "Her lease is up, and she needs a landing pad." It wasn't a question. It wasn't a request for a favor. It was a command issued from a general to a foot soldier. Across the table, my older sister, Leela, picked at her food, feigning interest in a roasted potato, avoiding my gaze. I felt a physical reaction before a mental one, my jaw locked tight enough to ache, and a sensation of crushing pressure bloomed in the center of my chest, as if a steel boot were pressing the air out of my lungs. "No," I said. The word tumbled out before I could polish it or soften its edges. "She is not." The silence that followed was absolute. It sucked the oxygen out of the room. Leela's head snapped up, her eyes wide with genuine shock, as if the furniture had suddenly started speaking. Margaret blinked slowly, a predator assessing a sudden movement in the tall grass. "Excuse me?" Margaret asked, her voice dropping an octave, dangerously quiet. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no," I repeated, my voice trembling but gaining volume. "I am not taking her in. I am not doing this again. I am done." The scraping of the chair legs against the hardwood floor sounded like a scream. Margaret stood up so abruptly that her napkin fluttered to the floor like a surrender flag, but she was attacking, not yielding. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed, the veneer of composure shattering. Her hand moved in a blur. The impact cracked across my cheekbone, a sharp, stinging explosion of heat that rang in my ears like a gunshot. My head whipped to the side. For a heartbeat, the world suspended.
Have you ever felt your entire childhood crash into you in a single second? In the heat of that slap, I felt every moment I had stayed silent, every time I had swallowed my pride, every time I had convinced myself that family comes first, while they treated me like a spare part. I did not cry. I did not beg for an apology. I simply pushed my chair back, the wood groaning against the floor. I grabbed my purse, the leather strap feeling cool against my sweating palm, and I walked toward the door. Behind me, Margaret was screaming my name, her voice cracking with a mix of rage and disbelief. "Elena, get back here! Elena!" I didn't turn around. I couldn't. If I had turned around, I might have stayed. I walked out into the cool night air, leaving the front door slightly ajar, a gaping mouth behind me. I didn't go straight to my apartment. I couldn't bear the silence of my own home yet. I walked through the city streets, my heels clicking a frantic rhythm on the pavement, walking until my calves burned and the humiliating heat in my cheek began to fade into a dull throb. The metallic taste of adrenaline coated my tongue. Her words played on a loop in my mind. Ungrateful brat. As if I hadn't worked 2 jobs through university while Leela sat at home, finding herself. As if I hadn't transferred thousands of dollars to keep their electricity on when Margaret forgot the bills. As if I hadn't been the bank, the therapist, and the emotional punching bag for a decade. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a jarring vibration against my hip. It was Maya, my roommate, and the sister I had chosen, not the one I was assigned. "Where are you? Dinner was supposed to end an hour ago. You okay?" I stared at the glowing screen, my vision blurring. I typed back, my fingers clumsy. "I need to talk. Meet me at the coffee shop on 4th?" 20 minutes later, I was seated at a corner table in our usual haunt, the smell of roasted beans and cinnamon offering a small comfort. My hands were still trembling, rattling the ceramic cup I was holding. Maya rushed in, bringing a gust of cold wind with her. She dropped her bag and slid into the seat across from me, her eyes immediately zeroing in on my face. "Elena, your cheek," she whispered, her expression darkening. "What happened?" I took a shuddering breath, trying to stabilize my voice. Margaret announced Leela is moving in with me. No warning, just decided. I looked down at my black coffee. I said no. She slapped me. Maya leaned back, her eyes wide, processing the violence. "She hit you? Again?" The word hung in the air between us. Again. It wasn't the first time, but I had always rationalized it before. It was just a tap. She was stressed.
It was my fault for provoking her, but tonight felt different. "Maybe you're wondering the same thing I was," I said to Maya, though I was really speaking to the universe. "How many times do you forgive someone before you realize that your forgiveness has become their permission? How long do you let someone trample your boundaries before you have to admit that you don't actually have any boundaries left?" "I'm 28, I added, my voice barely a whisper. "I pay my rent, I pay my bills. I am not a child she can discipline." Maya exhaled slowly, a long stream of air through pursed lips. "Okay, start from the beginning, tell me everything." So I did. I purged it all. I told her about the years of being the responsible one, how Margaret, a woman who could charm a snake out of a basket when she wanted to, always said, "Elena can handle it." How Leela floated from job to job, leaving a trail of chaos, always landing back in Margaret's guest room whenever reality bit too hard. I told her about the time my entire savings account, money I had scraped together for a deposit on a car, vanished because Leela had totaled her vehicle and needed a replacement to get to a job she quit 3 weeks later. Margaret had guilted me into it, saying family doesn't let family drown. And now, I finished, wiping a straight tear, they want me to be her live-in landlord, maid, and therapist. Again. And because I said no, apparently I'm the villain. Maya tapped her fingernails on the formica table, a sharp, rhythmic sound. She looked at me with a fierce intensity. "You know what your problem is, Elena?" I let out a wet, humorless laugh. "Just one?" "You don't let yourself stay angry," she said. "You get mad, you flare up, and then you fold. The guilt eats you alive, and you go back to apologize. How many times has this pattern repeated? A dozen? 100? She leaned in closer. "Have you ever noticed that the people who call you selfish are usually the ones who profit the most from your selflessness? Have you ever asked yourself who would actually fall apart if you stopped saving them? What if, this time, you didn't fold? What if you didn't just walk away from that dinner, but you actually changed the rules of the game?" "What does that even mean?" I asked, wiping my eyes. "They're my family." "Family or not," Maya said, her voice hard as flint. "No one gets to slap you and then demand a spare key to your apartment. You don't need to start a war, Elena, but you need to build a fortress. You can protect yourself, you can gather proof, you can draw a line in the sand and make it clear that crossing it has consequences." She paused. "You told me about all the times Lila borrowed money, promised to pay you back, and then lied about it. Do you still have those texts?" I blinked. "Yeah, I never delete anything." "Good," Maya said, a dark satisfaction in her tone. "Keep them. Screenshots, bank transfer receipts, emails, everything. If they want to paint you as the ungrateful daughter, you might need to remind the world of the actual story." A cold clarity began to settle over my anger, cooling it into something solid and sharp. I had spent my entire life protecting their image, hiding their dysfunction from the world. What if I stopped protecting them and started protecting myself? "Are you telling me to get revenge?" I asked. "I'm telling you to stop being the scapegoat," Maya corrected. "If the truth looks like revenge to them, then that says more about their behavior than your intent. Would you do it? Would you collect the evidence against your own mother and sister, knowing it might tear everything apart, just to finally be free?" I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, the streetlights casting long, shifting shadows across my ceiling. My cheek throbbed in time with my heartbeat. My phone lay beside me, a glowing repository of painful history. I unlocked it and began to scroll. "Can you spot me $200 for groceries? I swear I'll pay you back Friday. Sent 3 years ago. Unpaid. Mom said you could help with my rent just this once. You're the only one who understands. sent 2 years ago, unpaid. I need $500 for the car repair or I lose my job. Please, Elena. The pattern was undeniable. I opened my banking app and cross-referenced the dates. Transfers to Margaret, transfers to Lila, rent payments, utility bills, emergencies that seemed to occur with the regularity of the tides. I started taking screenshots. Click, click, click. I organized them into a folder on my laptop, labeling them by date and amount. It felt illicit, like I was betraying them, but it also felt like taking a deep breath after being underwater for years. The next day, my phone lit up with a text from Margaret. We need to talk. Meet me at the park at 4 p.m. Don't be dramatic this time. I almost laughed at the audacity. Don't be dramatic. At 4 p.m., I walked into the city park, the leaves turning crunching brown under my boots. I wasn't the daughter who came to apologize today. I was the woman who had the receipts. Margaret was sitting on a bench near the duck pond, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Lila stood a few feet away, kicking at the dirt, checking her phone, looking everywhere but at me. So, Margaret began as I approached, skipping a greeting. About yesterday, you overreacted. Overreacted? I kept my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs.
You slapped me in the face, Margaret, in front of family, and I simply left. What part of that was an overreaction? Your sister is going through a crisis and you refuse to help, Margaret said, waving her hand dismissively. I was embarrassed, Elena. What kind of daughter refuses to open her home to family? The kind of daughter who was tired of being used, I replied. And what kind of mother hits her adult child because she hears the word no? Lila scoffed, finally looking up. Oh my God, come on. It was a slap, not a homicide. You're acting like a victim. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, opening the folder I had prepared. Do you remember this? I asked, holding the screen up to Lila's face. She squinted at it. What? 3 years ago, I said, you asked me for $600 to cover your rent because you lost your wallet. You promised to pay me back in 2 months. Lila frowned. So? Why are you bringing up ancient history? Because you never paid me back, I said. And then you did it again 6 months later. And again. I turned to Margaret. And you. Every time you told me I should help because Elena has her life together. You called it being a good sister. Margaret shifted uncomfortably on the bench. That is what families do, Elena. They help each other. Is it? I swiped to another screenshot. Is it also what families do when you pressure one daughter into draining her college fund so the other daughter can buy a convertible she crashes 3 months later? Margaret's face went pale. The air between us grew frigid. Where are you going with this? She asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. I looked at both of them, the 2 women who were supposed to be my safe harbor, but had been my storm. You call me ungrateful. You call me selfish. But here is the reality. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folded stack of papers. I handed it to Margaret. It was a spreadsheet. Dates, amounts, reasons. Total, over $14,000 in 10 years. Have you ever wished you could lay your entire pain on the table and force someone to look at it? I asked. This is what you cost me. This is why I am not okay. Lila grabbed the paper from Margaret's hand, scanning the columns. Her face twisted. Why are you doing this? Are you trying to humiliate us? You kept a scorecard? No, I said. I kept a record of survival. I am done pretending that I am the problem. You want to move in with me? You want to live rent-free while I work 45 hours a week? No, not anymore. Margaret swallowed hard, crumbling the edge of the paper. So what are you saying? I am saying I will not be your safety net, I answered, feeling lighter with every word. If Lila can't pay her rent, she needs to talk to her landlord or get a second job. If you can't cover her, Margaret, that is between the 2 of you. I am removing myself from the equation. And if we end up on the street? Lila challenged, her voice rising. I held her gaze, refusing to flinch. Then you will finally learn what gravity feels like. I learned it at 18. You are 32. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the tears of remorse. They were the tears of a manipulator losing control. You are going to regret this, she said, her voice trembling with malice. People will hear about what you did,
They will know you turned your back on your own mother and sister. I thought of the phone call she would make, the twisted narratives, the victimhood. Maybe they should hear the full story then, I said quietly. Are you threatening me? Margaret hissed. I'm promising you, I said. If you lie about me, I will tell the truth about you. I walked away. The smear campaign began less than 24 hours later. My aunt called first. Elena, what is going on? Your mother says you screamed at her in the park and you're letting your poor sister be homeless. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Same script, new audience. Did she also mention the $14,000 I've given them? I asked. Did she mention the slap? Silence on the line. Then a sigh. Your mother is under a lot of stress, Elena. Maybe you should be more understanding. There it was. Understanding. The weaponized word. Be more understanding. Be more patient. Why was I the only one required to understand? Why was my empathy the only currency accepted in this family? That night, I sat at my laptop, staring at the flashing cursor. I opened the extended family group chat. Cousins, aunts, uncles. Margaret, I don't know what I did to raise such a cold daughter. Lila, imagine choosing your bank account over your own flesh and blood. I stared at the screen. Maya was sitting on the couch, reading a book, but watching me over the top of the pages. Daisy, I said, using her nickname, if I drop all of this evidence into the group chat, is that going too far? She marked her page and set the book down. Do you want revenge or do you want clarity? Both, I admitted. Then do it clean, she said. No insults, no name-calling, just facts. Let them decide who the villain is. I took a deep breath. I typed, for everyone who has been told that I am ungrateful and selfish, I want you to see the reality of the last 10 years. I attached the PDF, the bank transfers, the screenshots of broken promises, the lies, and one final sentence. I am not turning my back on my family. I am turning my back on being used. I hit send. The sensation was terrifying, like throwing a grenade into a crowded room and waiting for the boom. Would they hate me? Would they call me petty? Within minutes, the chat exploded. Cousin Mike. Wait, she borrowed $2,000 for school but never enrolled? Aunt Sarah. Margaret, you told me you paid for that car, not Elena. Margaret, how dare you? Take this down immediately. Lila, you are sick. You're obsessed with money. I typed one final response. This isn't about money. It's about respect. I will not finance people who abuse me. I muted the chat, but the consequences were just beginning. Later that night, my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Hello? Hi, is this Elena Wilson? A male voice, professional, tired. Yes? Hi, this is Mark. I'm Lila's manager at the logistics firm. Well, this is awkward. I found your number through a mutual contact in your family. I saw the screenshot circulating. My blood ran cold. The blast radius was larger than I intended. I didn't send those to you, I said quickly. I know, Mark said. But someone did. Look, I saw the messages where Lila said she needed money because she was between jobs, dated last month. She told us she was taking time off to care for a terminally ill parent. I froze. A sick parent. I just need to know, Mark continued, his voice hardening. Is your mother terminally ill? I looked at Maya. She was watching me, waiting. If I lied, I saved Lila one more time. I pulled her back from the ledge. If I told the truth, she fell. No, I whispered. My mother is fine. She's perfectly healthy. Mark exhaled, a sound of disappointment and resolution. And the dates? She was out partying when she said she was at the hospital? Yes, I said. According to her social media, yes. Okay, Mark said. Thank you for your honesty. I can't keep someone on the team who fabricates family emergencies. It's dangerous. I understand, I said. I hung up, my hand shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I think I just helped get my sister fired, I said, my voice hollow. Does that make me a monster? Maya came over and sat beside me. Elena, you didn't get her fired. She lied. You just refused to participate in the lie. If someone keeps burning bridges, you are not cruel for refusing to be the next plank of wood they stand on. The next morning, the storm arrived. Lila didn't knock. She hammered on my apartment door with both fists. I opened it with the chain lock engaged. Through the crack, I saw her face.
streaked with mascara, eyes wild and bloodshot. "You bitch," she screamed. "You got me fired. Mark called me. He said he talked to you." "I told him the truth," I said calmly, though my knees were shaking. "You lied, Lila." "You could have covered for me," she shrieked, slamming her body against the door. "You always did before. What is wrong with you?" "Nothing," I said. "That is the point. Nothing is wrong with me. I am finally done lying for you." "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she spat. "I have no job, no savings. My landlord wants rent by Friday. Mom says you won't help. Are you trying to make me homeless?" "You knew your rent was due," I said. "You knew lying to your boss was a risk. You chose this. I didn't do this to you, Lila. You created this." She laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. "You think you're better than us now, just because you have a savings account and high and mighty principles?" "Yes," I said, the realization surprising me. "I am better than the version of myself who let you walk all over her." "I hope you sleep well," she sneered, "knowing you destroyed your own family." "For the first time in years," I replied, "I think I will." I shut the door. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to her footsteps stomp away. The silence that followed in the coming weeks was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was the silence of reconstruction. Margaret tried to call. I let it go to voicemail. Then she came to the door. Maya stood with me this time, holding her phone up, recording. "If you touch her," Maya said to my mother, "I call the police. I am a witness." Margaret had looked at us, her hand twitching, the ghost of a slap lingering in her muscle memory. But she didn't strike. She saw the camera. She saw the steel in my eyes. She turned and left. 3 weeks of silence. Then a different kind of call. "Hi, this is Dr. Evans," a soft voice said. "Your mother and sister are in my office. They claim you are refusing to communicate, and they are concerned about your mental stability. They want a family session." I nearly laughed. Mental stability, the gaslighter's favorite diagnosis. "They're right. They said you've become vindictive." "With all due respect, doctor," I said, "I am not the one who lied, hit, and stole. I am the one who said no. If that makes me vindictive, so be it." "Would you be open to a session?" "Not today," I said. "Maybe when they want to talk about their actions, not mine." Weeks turned into months. The guilt came in waves, but I rolled them out. I focused on my work. I cooked dinner. I breathed. Then one rainy Tuesday, they ambushed me, not at my home, but outside my office building. I walked out to the parking lot and saw them standing under the flickering streetlight. Lila looked thinner, her clothes unkempt. Margaret looked aged, her posture slumped. "Elena," Margaret called out. Her voice lacked the command it usually held. "Please, we need to talk." I stopped. "Here? You want to do this here?" "We have nowhere else," Lila said, her voice cracking. "I'm on a payment plan with the landlord, but if I miss one more week, I'm out. Mom is behind on utilities. We can't handle this." It was the apology tour, but with a price tag attached. "Let me ask you," I said, keeping my distance. "If I give you money again, if I let you move in, what changes? Do you learn? Or do I just reset the clock until the next crisis?" Margaret opened her mouth, but found no words. "Are you in therapy?" I asked Lila. "Real therapy?" She looked at her shoes. "I can't afford it." "You can afford cigarettes," I noted, looking at the pack in her hand. "You can afford the new phone I see in your pocket. You just can't afford responsibility." She flinched. "Here is my offer," I said, my voice cutting through the rain. "I will pay for 3 months of therapy for you, Lila. I will send the checks directly to the doctor. Not a cent goes to you. I will not house you. I will not pay your rent. You figure that out. You work at a fast food joint if you have to, but I will pay for you to get help." Margaret stared at me. "That's cruel. She needs a roof, not a shrink." "Is it cruel?" I asked. "Or is it the first time anyone has given her a chance to grow up? Take it or leave it." Lila looked at Margaret, then at me. "I'll take it," she whispered. 3 months later. The storm hadn't vanished, but the winds had changed direction. Lila went to the therapy. At first, I assumed she would quit, but she kept going. I got occasional texts. My therapist asked why I blame you for my choices. I didn't have an answer.
I replied with simple encouragement. No money, just words. One afternoon, Lila asked to meet at the park, the same bench where I had shown them the spreadsheet. She was already there when I arrived. She was wearing a uniform, a green polo shirt from a grocery store. She looked tired, but she looked solid. Hey, she said. Hey. We sat in silence, watching the ducks. I hate the job, she admitted with a half smile. Stocking shelves at 32. It's humbling. It's honest, I said.
Yeah, she sighed. I was really angry at you, Elena. I thought you ruined my life. I felt like you pushed me off a cliff. She turned to look at me. But lately, I've been wondering if maybe you just stopped standing underneath me to catch me. Tears pricked my eyes. Do you know what it felt like on my side? It felt like I was lying on the pavement, and every time you fell, you landed on me. Everyone said I was strong, but even concrete cracks eventually. Lila nodded slowly. The therapist calls it enmeshment. We were too tangled. You cut the thread. It felt like betrayal. Maybe it was surgery. How is Mom? I asked. Still dramatic, Lila laughed softly. She still tells the aunts you're difficult, but she's seeing Dr. Evans now too. She hasn't slapped anyone in months. It's progress. I'm sorry, Lila added, her voice breaking. For the money, for the lies, for letting her hit you. I'm sorry too, I said, for enabling it. I thought I was helping, but I was just keeping you stuck. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. If you are with your sister, tell her dinner is at 7. There is a plate for you, Elena. No expectations, just dinner and roast chicken. I showed the screen to Lila. Are you going? She asked. I thought about the slap. I thought about the fear. But then I thought about the woman sitting next to me, wearing a grocery store uniform, finally carrying her own weight. Revenge hadn't looked like a movie explosion. It looked like this. It looked like forcing them to become people who didn't need to use me. I might, I said. But if I go, it's because I choose to, not because I have to. Lila smiled, a genuine, tired smile. Can I ask you something? Do you hate us? I looked at the sky, the sun breaking through the clouds. No, I hate who I had to be in this family to survive, but I don't hate you. That's why I stopped playing along. It was the only way to save us. That sounds like love, she whispered. Maybe it was. Maybe the most brutal revenge you can take on a toxic cycle is to refuse to repeat it, no matter the cost. Whatever you do, don't let anyone turn you into a resource instead of a person. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, or if you're thinking about it right now, hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes saying no is the most powerful thing you will ever do. Like this video if you believe in boundaries. See you in the next one.